For more than 10,000 years, the Galactic Empire believed it was eternal. Its fleets controlled every major trade route. Its laws ruled thousands of species. Its name alone was enough to end wars. No enemy had ever challenged the Empire and survived. Because of this, the Empire no longer feared the unknown. At the edge of explored space, far from the bright core worlds, the Empire gathered its greatest force. The Grand Armada stretched across the darkness like a metal storm. Millions of warships waited in perfect order, their engines glowing like blue stars. This was meant to be a simple mission. Unknown forces had attacked border systems. Patrols had vanished. Signals had gone silent. But the Empire believed these were weak rebels or lost pirates. Nothing serious. The High Command ordered the Armada forward. Then space began to act strangely. Navigation systems showed small errors. Star maps shifted by tiny amounts. Time signals arrived late. At first, officers ignored it. Space was unpredictable. Machines failed. But the problems grew. Long-range sensors started to flicker. Entire star systems vanished from scans, then reappeared seconds later. Engineers tried to fix the issue, but the error spread faster than they could respond. Then the first ship disappeared. It did not explode. It did not send a distress call. It simply vanished. Command demanded confirmation. Maybe it was a sensor glitch. Maybe the ship had jumped early. Then another ship vanished. Then 5 more. Within moments, hundreds of warships were gone. Fear crept into the voices of seasoned officers. This had never happened before. The Empire had seen every weapon the galaxy could create. But this was different. Suddenly, the darkness ahead moved. Without warning, without light, without any known form of travel. Shapes appeared. Cold, sharp shapes pulled themselves out of empty space. 1 became 10. 10 became hundreds. Then thousands. An entire fleet stood before the Grand Armada. Unknown, silent, perfectly still. No flags, no markings, no transmissions. The Empire opened fire. Energy beams lit up space. Missiles poured forward like rain. Enough firepower to erase planets. The attacks did nothing. The shots bent away, as if space itself refused to let them pass. Then the unknown fleet answered. There were no bright explosions, no loud sounds. Empire ships shut down instantly. Power failed. Controls went dead. Crews floated in darkness, unable to move. Then those ships disappeared, erased from existence. This was not war. This was judgment. For the first time in its history, the Galactic Empire did not understand its enemy, and that terrified it. Admiral Varkesh stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the tactical display. Entire sections of the Grand Armada were missing, not damaged, not destroyed, gone. He ordered calm. He believed fear was weakness, and weakness was death. The Empire had survived worse threats. Or so he told himself. Weapons officers tried new attack patterns. They adjusted frequencies. They overloaded cannons. Nothing worked. The unknown fleet remained untouched. The Empire tried to retreat. Jump drives failed across the Armada. Not broken. Blocked. Someone or something had locked them in place. The unknown fleet began to move. Slowly. Carefully. Each movement had purpose. Each strike removed command ships first, then supply vessels, then battleships. This was not random destruction. This was strategy. The Empire had made its greatest mistake long ago. It had believed total victory meant total destruction. Deep within restricted archives, a data officer searched ancient files. Records sealed for thousands of years. Wars erased from history. One name appeared again and again. Humanity, a species once labeled dangerous. Too adaptable, too creative, too unwilling to surrender. The Empire had attacked their homeworld, burned their cities, destroyed their fleets. But the records showed something the Empire had tried to hide. Humans did not fight to win quickly. They fought to survive. When defeat was certain, they vanished into deep space. They learned. They waited. And now they had returned. Outside, Empire ships continued to vanish one by one. No mercy. No warnings. The unknown fleet sent its first message. Not words. Data. Proof. It showed the Empire its own crimes. Broken worlds. Enslaved species. Lies written into history. The message was clear. You were never invincible. You were just unchallenged. Admiral Varkesh understood too late. This was not an invasion. It was a correction. The Empire had awakened an enemy it believed extinct. And across the galaxy, as the Grand Armada collapsed, a single truth became clear. Humanity had not come to rule the stars. It had come to end an empire. The unknown fleet did not finish the empire quickly. That was what frightened them most. After the first wave of destruction, the human ships stopped advancing. They formed a wide arc around the remaining Empire vessels, holding position at a distance that made no tactical sense. They were not pressing the attack. They were watching. Admiral Varkesh stood frozen on the bridge. The Grand Armada, once proud and endless, was now broken into scattered groups. Command channels were filled with overlapping voices. Captains shouting, officers arguing, crews demanding orders that could not be given. The Empire still had numbers. Thousands of warships remained. But numbers meant nothing when the enemy could erase ships without effort. The unknown fleet sent no signals, no demands, no threats. Silence pressed down on every bridge. Empire scientists worked desperately. They scanned the enemy ships from every angle. Energy readings came back clean. Hull scans returned impossible values. The ships were real, but their materials did not match any known substance. It was as if the fleet had been built outside the rules of known physics. Weapons officers reported something worse. The unknown ships were not using shields. There was nothing to break. Their hulls bent space slightly, enough to turn attacks aside. It was not defense. It was control. Admiral Varkesh ordered a probe launched. A small, unmanned drone raced toward the nearest enemy vessel. Before it reached its target, the drone froze in space. Time stopped around it. Then it collapsed into nothing. The Empire now understood. This fleet did not fight wars. It ended them. Still, the Empire tried diplomacy. A command signal was broadcast across every known frequency. It carried surrender codes, trade offers, and peace terms beyond anything the Empire had ever offered before. There was no reply. Then, without warning, the unknown fleet changed formation. Individual ships drifted forward, separating from the main force. They approached Empire vessels slowly, close enough for visual range. Captains stared at their screens. The ships were not massive. They were not elegant. They were practical. Every surface showed signs of purpose. Thick armor plates overlapped in layers. Old scars were visible beneath newer repairs. These ships had survived battles the Empire never knew about. They were not built to look powerful. They were built to endure. An Empire captain whispered the truth aloud. These are survivor ships. The unknown vessel stopped. Then they began scanning Empire ships, one by one. Not for weapons, not for cargo, for data. They were reading crew histories, military records, command logs, war crimes, judging. Ships with long records of planetary destruction vanished first, then those that carried enslaved species, then command vessels that had ordered exterminations. The pattern was clear. This was not random destruction. It was selective. The Empire's fear deepened into something worse. Guilt. A high-ranking intelligence officer finally confirmed what many feared. These ships are human, he said quietly. The name spread through command channels like a poison. Humanity, a species the Empire believed extinct. The truth was undeniable now. The unknown fleet's technology showed long development, decades stacked on centuries. Humanity had not just survived, it had prepared. The Empire had believed destroying Earth meant ending humanity. That was its greatest mistake. Humans did not depend on one world. They spread. They adapted. They learned to live without light, without comfort, without mercy. While the Empire celebrated victory, humans studied defeat. They learned how Empire fleets moved, how they thought, how they punished weakness. And they built something new. Back on the bridge, Admiral Varkesh felt something crack inside him. Pride. For the first time, he saw the Empire as others saw it. Arrogant, cool, blind. The unknown fleet sent another signal. This time, it was a simple visual transmission. No sound. It showed old footage. Empire warships above a blue planet. Fire falling from the sky. Cities burning. People running. Earth. The image changed. Human ships leaving the system. Small. Weak. Fleeing. Then the image shifted again. Deep space. Human colonies hidden among dead stars. Shipyards carved into asteroids. Children training in low gravity. Engineers rebuilding lost knowledge. Generation after generation. The final image showed the fleet, now facing the Empire. The message ended. No words were needed. Admiral Varkesh understood. This fleet had no name because it did not need one. It was not here to announce itself. It was here to be remembered. Around the Grand Armada, human ships began moving again. The execution was about to continue, and the Empire had finally realized the truth too late. The galaxy had changed sides. The Empire no longer tried to fight. Across the broken remains of the Grand Armada, silence replaced chaos. Weapons stayed cold. Commands went unanswered. Crews waited, frozen in fear, watching the dark human ships drip between them like hunters moving through tall grass. The humans did not rush. They never rushed. Admiral Varkesh sat heavily in his command chair. His hands shook, though he tried to hide it. Around him, officers whispered or stared at their screens in disbelief. The Empire had always been the center of the galaxy. Now it felt small. A science officer spoke, her voice tight. The human ships are broadcasting short-range signals between each other. Very low power. Impossible to intercept. They don't need speed. Another officer said quietly. They already know the outcome. That truth hurt more than any weapon. One by one, human vessels approached Empire ships that were still active. They did not attack immediately. Instead, they matched speed and position, holding steady just outside firing range. Empire captains tried to threaten them. Some tried to beg. Some demanded answers. The humans ignored them all. Instead, systems aboard the Empire ships began shutting down. Slowly this time. First weapons, then engines, then internal doors. Not a full shutdown. Just enough. Enough to remind the crews that they were powerless. The Empire had always believed fear was the best weapon. Now it was learning what true fear felt like. Deep inside a surviving data center, analysts continued searching ancient records. They uncovered more hidden files, sealed by the highest authority. Files marked with a single warning. Do not restore. Inside were reports from the first war against humanity. Humans did not fight like other species. They did not follow fixed battle plans. They did not protect territory the same way. They sacrificed ships to learn enemy tactics. They learned fast. Every loss made them stronger. The Empire had seen this as weakness. It had been wrong. The files showed something else. After Earth fell, humanity did not unite under one leader. They did something far more dangerous. They became many. Independent fleets. Hidden groups. Isolated colonies. Each solving the same problems in different ways. Each experimenting. Each adapting. When one failed, another succeeded. When one was discovered, 10 more stayed hidden. Humanity had turned survival into evolution. Back in the present, a human ship finally sent a message. Not to the whole Armada. Only to Admiral Varkesh's flagship. The signal cut through every Empire defense system, as if they were not there. The bridge lights dimmed. A single image appeared. A human, not armored, not threatening. Older, tired eyes, calm expression. He spoke slowly in clear galactic common. We are not here for revenge, the human said. We are here for consequence. The bridge was silent. You erased us from history, he continued. You taught the galaxy that power meant permission, that survival was a crime. He paused. We learned from you. The image shifted. It showed human ships avoiding populated worlds, human weapons disabling not destroying certain targets. Careful strikes, controlled damage. We did not come to rule, the human said. We came to stop the cycle. The transmission ended. No threats, no demands, just truth. Admiral Varkesh felt something he had never felt before. Shame. Outside, human ships resumed their movement. This time, they targeted communication relays, supply routes, command hubs across nearby systems. The Empire's structure began to collapse, not in fire, in confusion. Governors lost contact with the core. Fleets waited for orders that never came. Client species realized the Empire could no longer protect or punish them. Rebellions began within hours. The humans had not just destroyed the Armada. They had broken the idea of the Empire. On one damaged Empire cruiser, a young officer stared out at a human ship floating nearby. It bore scars. Old ones. Deep ones. This ship has been fighting for centuries, he whispered. Yes, his captain replied softly, and it remembers every battle. The human fleet began withdrawing from the battlefield, not retreating. Moving on, they left surviving Empire ships disabled but intact. Crews were alive. Life support remained active. A choice. The Empire could live with what it had done, or fall under the weight of it. As the human ships vanished back into the dark, one final message spread across open galactic channels, not just to the Empire, to everyone. Humanity was never gone, the message said. We were watching. And across the galaxy, ancient powers and young civilizations understood the same terrifying truth. The humans had returned not as conquerors, but as judges. The fall of the Grand Armada was only the beginning. Across the galaxy, news traveled faster than truth ever had before. Empire fleets destroyed. Command ships erased. Human vessels appearing like ghosts, striking with perfect control. For the first time in history, the Empire did not control the story. People did. On distant worlds, citizens gathered in public squares, staring at shared screens. They watched recordings of the battle again and again. The moment Empire ships vanished. The moment silence swallowed power. Many had dreamed of this day. Few believed it would ever come. On the capital world, the High Council met in panic. Gray halls once filled with pride now echoed with fear. Leaders argued, shouted, blamed one another. No one had answers. They had built their rule on one belief. The Empire was unstoppable. That belief was gone. Governors from outer systems sent desperate messages. What do we do? Where's the fleet? Are the humans coming here next? The council had no reply. In shipyards across the core worlds, workers stopped building warships. Engineers walked away from projects that suddenly felt meaningless. Soldiers removed their armor, unsure who they were meant to fight. Without the Armada, the Empire was just a name. On a mining colony once controlled by fear, something unexpected happened. Workers gathered in silence. No guards, no overseers, no orders. Then someone spoke. The Empire is not watching anymore. The words felt unreal. Moments later, chains fell, doors opened. Old prisoners stepped into sunlight for the first time in years. Freedom spread faster than rebellion ever had. Meanwhile, the human fleet moved quietly through space. They did not attack planets. They did not occupy territory. Instead, they visited key systems, communication hubs, defense stations, command centers. Wherever they arrived, Empire control collapsed without violence. Human ships disabled systems with precision. They shut down weapons, not cities. They removed leaders, not populations. They were not conquerors. They were surgeons. On one former Empire world, a crowd gathered as a human ship descended into orbit. People expected destruction. They expected fire. None came. Instead, a message played across the sky. We will not rule you, the human voice said. Choose your own future. Then the ship left. No demands. No taxes. No flags. Just choice. Across the galaxy, smaller species began forming councils. Old enemies met without fear. Borders once enforced by Empire guns faded into memory. The Empire's greatest weapon had always been division. Humanity had broken that weapon without firing a shot. Back on the capital world, Admiral Varkesh watched the collapse unfold. Reports flooded in. Rebellions, defections, entire fleets switching allegiance or disbanding. He felt strangely calm. For the first time, there was nothing left to pretend. A junior officer entered the chamber quietly. "Sir," he said, "human ships are approaching the capital." Varkesh nodded. He had known this moment would come. Outside, the sky darkened as hundreds of human vessels appeared above the city. They formed a circle, wide and patient. They did not attack. They waited. The council demanded evacuation. Some tried to flee. Some tried to hide. Some begged Varkesh to negotiate. He walked alone onto the balcony, overlooking the city. Millions of people looked up with him. A single human ship descended slowly until it hovered above the central tower. A beam of light formed. A figure appeared within it. Human, the same one from before. Older, calm, steady. He stood before Varkesh without weapons, without armor. "Admiral," the human said. Varkesh bowed his head slightly. "You won." The human shook his head. "We ended something," he said. "Winning is different." Varkesh looked out over the city. "What happens now?" The human followed his gaze. "Now," he said, "the galaxy learns to live without empires." Varkesh laughed softly, without humor. "Chaos will come." "Yes," the human replied. "And growth." The human turned toward the crowd. "Your rulers believe control was peace," he said, his voice carrying across the city. "They believed fear was order. They believed power was truth." He paused. "They were wrong." The human raised his hand. Behind him, human ships projected images into the sky. Worlds rebuilding. Species meeting as equals. Children studying together across stars. "We will not stay," the human said. "This future is not ours to command." The beam faded. The human disappeared. The ships rose and vanished into the dark. Silence filled the sky. No occupation. No orders. Only possibility. Admiral Varkesh stood alone as history ended around him. The Empire did not fall in fire. It fell in understanding. And across the galaxy, billions realized something impossible had happened. Humanity had not replaced the Empire. Humanity had removed the need for it. The Empire did not die in a single moment. It faded. Across thousands of systems, symbols of authority were taken down. Empire flags were lowered. Statues that once inspired fear were pulled apart piece by piece. People expected chaos. Instead, something quieter happened. Relief. On worlds that lived under constant surveillance, citizens stepped outside without fear patrol ships. Markets opened freely for the first time in generations. Old languages returned. Old songs were sung again. Many did not know what freedom felt like. They had to learn. Former Empire soldiers wandered the streets unsure of who they were without orders. Some threw away their weapons. Others helped rebuild cities they once guarded. No one chased them. No one punished them. Humanity had not given the galaxy new rulers. It had given it a pause. In the empty space once controlled by the Empire, councils formed. At first, they were small. Representatives from nearby worlds met to share resources, information, and protection. Old enemies sat at the same tables. Fear made them cautious. Hope made them stay. Trade routes reopened without Empire taxes. Independent fleets protected convoys together. For the first time, strength came from cooperation, not domination. Still, the scars remained. Many worlds had been damaged beyond easy repair. Ecosystems burned. Cities poisoned. Generations raised under cruelty struggled to trust anything new. Human ships returned to some of these worlds, but not as saviors. They brought tools, knowledge, medical aid. Then they left. No speeches, no monuments, no gratitude demanded. On one shattered planet, a child watched a human ship lift into the sky. She asked her mother who they were. The mother thought for a long time. "They are the ones who remembered us," she finally said. Far away, Admiral Varkesh sat alone in a quiet chamber. The Empire's capital was no longer a center of power. It was now a meeting place, open to all species. He had resigned his title. He wore no uniform. He spent his days reading records that were once forbidden, stories of world erased, of species silenced, of humanity driven into darkness. He understood now. The Empire had feared humanity not because it was violent, but because it refused to accept control as destiny. One day, Varkesh received a message. It was not encrypted. It was not official. It came from an unknown source. Coordinates, and a single line of text. You wanted to understand. Against the advice of everyone, Varkesh traveled alone. The coordinates led him beyond known space, into regions once considered empty. There, hidden among dead stars, he found something extraordinary. A human archive, not a fortress, not a base, a library. Within it were records of humanity's long exile, their failures, their losses, their internal wars, their mistakes. They had not been perfect. They had suffered. They had nearly destroyed themselves more than once. But they had learned. A final recording played automatically. The same human leader appeared. We did not build an empire, the human said. We watched too many fall. We did not return to rule, he continued. We returned because someone had to end the cycle. The image paused. If the galaxy chooses another empire, the human said, we will not stop it, but we will remember. The archive shut down. Varkesh left in silence. Back in the wider galaxy, years passed. New alliances formed. Some failed. Some succeeded. Conflict still happened. Wars still broke out. But something had changed. When fleets gathered, they remembered the human ships that did not need numbers. When leaders spoke of domination, others remembered the Empire's quiet end. Power was no longer unquestioned. Humanity did not appear again. No fleets, no messages, but stories spread. Parents told their children about the species that vanished into darkness and returned stronger, not in weapons, but in purpose. Some call humanity ghosts. Others call them guardians. Most simply call them a warning, because the galaxy now understood a truth written into its history forever. Empires fall when they forget why power exists. And somewhere beyond the edge of the stars, humanity watched, not as rulers, not as gods, but as proof that even the strongest chains could be broken. Years passed after the fall of the Galactic Empire. The galaxy did not become perfect, but it became honest. Without a single ruler watching from the shadows, civilizations were forced to face themselves. Some chose peace. Some chose conflict. Many struggled, failed, and tried again. Freedom was harder than obedience, but it was real. On many worlds, children grew up without knowing the Empire's fear. They studied history that was no longer edited. They learned about the Great Collapse, about the Silent Fleet, and about the species that had ended an age without claiming a throne. Humanity. Some believed humans were a myth. Others believed they still watched from the dark. A few feared they would return one day to judge again. But humanity did not appear. Not openly. Far beyond known space, human systems remained hidden. Not out of fear, but out of choice. Humanity had learned the cost of being seen too early. Within these distant systems, human leaders gathered, not in grand halls, in simple rooms. They spoke quietly about the galaxy they had changed. Some argued humanity should guide the stars. Others warned that guidance always became control. They remembered Earth. They remembered how power had once blinded them too. A decision was made. Humanity would not rule. Humanity would not lead. Humanity would not interfere. Unless the cycle returned. They would remain a shadow in history, a reminder. Back in known space, a new threat slowly began to rise. A coalition of former warlords, a growing fleet, old ideas wrapped in new words. They promised safety through strength, order through fear. Some worlds listened. Old habits were hard to break. As the coalition expanded, rumors spread. Ships disappearing near the edges of space. Sensors failing. Patrols vanishing without wreckage. Fear returned. Leaders argued. Councils debated. Many remembered the past. A single question echoed across the galaxy. Would humanity return? On a quiet human outpost, a young officer watched incoming data. The signs were familiar, too familiar. He reported to his superiors. Humanity had seen this before. The leaders met again. Silence filled the room. Finally, the oldest among them spoke. "We ended an empire," she said. "We did not end ambition." Another asked, "Do we act?" She looked at the stars beyond the window. "We gave the galaxy freedom," she said. "Now we must decide what freedom means." Humanity made its final choice. They would not strike first. They would not rule through fear. Instead, they sent a message. Not a fleet, a truth, across open galactic channels. A transmission peered. It carried no threat, no demand, only history. Footage of the Empire's fall. Records of worlds destroyed by unchecked power. Proof of what happens when strength replaces responsibility. The message ended with a single sentence. Choose carefully. We are watching. The rising coalition froze. They had believed humanity was gone. They were wrong. No ships appeared. No weapons fired. But worlds began to withdraw from the coalition. Allies questioned motives. Soldiers hesitated. Fear did not return. Memory did. The coalition collapsed under its own weight. Humanity never fired a shot. Years later, on a distant planet, a historian finished writing a book. Its final words described a strange era after the Empire. He wrote, "Humanity did not save the galaxy. They did not conquer it. They taught it something far more dangerous." He paused, then added the last line. "They taught it to remember." Far beyond the edge of the stars, human ships continued their quiet patrols. Not as guardians, not as kings, as witnesses. Because humanity understood something no empire ever had. Power fades. Fear fails. But memory endures. And as long as humanity remembered the cost of silence, the galaxy would never truly be alone again.